I'm not sure if it's a recurring theme just on this channel or if writers just can't help but talk about the bad things that happen to them in their childhoods. This is another one of those books. This is actually a memoir. It's called The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. Jeanette Walls? Yeah, I'd heard of this a long time ago. I think this book was very, very big when it came out, and it just became an enormous success. And I don't really hear it talked about a whole lot now, but I do hear about it now and then. And I really wanted to read it when I remembered it. And I'd heard that this was about a pretty messed up childhood situation. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the first page. I was sitting in a taxi, wondering if I had overdressed for the evening, when I looked out the window and saw Mom rooting through a dumpster. It was just after dark. A blustery March wind whipped the steam coming out of the manholes, and people hurried along the sidewalks with their collars turned up. I was stuck in traffic 2 blocks from the party where I was heading. Mom stood 15 feet away. She had tied rags around her shoulders to keep out the spring chill and was picking through the trash while her dog, a black and white terrier mix, played at her feet. Mom's gestures were all familiar, the way she tilted her head and thrust out her lower lip when studying the items of potential value that she'd hoisted out of the dumpster, the way her eyes widened with childish glee when she found something she liked. Her long hair was streaked with gray, tangled and matted, and her eyes had sunk deep into their sockets. But still, she reminded me of the mom she'd been when I was a kid. Swan diving off cliffs and painting in the desert and reading Shakespeare aloud. Her cheekbones were still high and strong, but the skin was parched and ruddy from all those winters and summers exposed to the elements. To the people walking by, she probably looked like any of the thousands of homeless people in New York City. It had been months since I laid eyes on Mom, and when she looked up, I was overcome with panic that she'd see me and call out my name. And it trails off from there. And already we've got a great, interesting conflict. Somebody panicked to see their own mother, and especially in such a disheveled state, obviously being sort of homeless, or at least looking homeless. I listened to an interview with the author of this book, and some of the things that she describes from her childhood. Very, very upsetting thing. Very upsetting stuff. And what I thought was interesting is the interviewer asked her if her parents made her angry over all these things, because I think at some point she got burned really bad. Literally, there were some other bad things that happened, and the interviewer was like, I feel like if this happened to me, I'd be very angry. I'd be pissed. And Jeanette Walls said, "What do I have to be angry about? It's sort of dead and done, and I didn't have anything to give me perspective on it. It was just life. It was just life happening, and my parents gave me these wonderful gifts. It's like my childhood wasn't great, but it taught me so much. And it's the things that it taught me were a blessing." And so I thought that was an interesting, good attitude to have. But yeah, this is just an interesting story. And I think it's written pretty well, and I think it's a pretty good start. If y'all have read The Glass Castle, or if you're interested in reading it, let me know. I'd love to hear what you think. And of course, if you have other books, I'd love to hear about those too. So until next time, and the next 1-page test. Yeah.